throughout the pregnancy, I always prayed for my kids when they were in the womb. And we named our second son Lindo Gutle. Apparently, they hold space for you emotionally. If you're feeling depressed, then you get onto a horse, you feel, and they connect nicely with humans. We were not emotionally available for each other as a couple. All the attention went into our son.
Well, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. This is Love, Marriage and Family Podcast. My name is Mo and I'm with Pindi.
Hi, family. We are excited to be back again, to be bringing you another exciting dose of love, marriage, and family. Today, we are joined by an amazing guest, a lady that I encountered. And I think that first encounter, I was like, okay, she's quite interesting. I love how she has journeyed in life and how she's really been able to persevere, over very trying and difficult times. She's an amazing mom. She's a businesswoman and a health activist. We're excited to be joined today by Mrs. Nomsa Masoka Zulu, who's joining us as our guest today, so that we can just get into her journey as a woman, her journey in business, but her journey in raising children. And we're really excited, and we truly believe that this will be an episode for you to enjoy. Miss Nomsa, welcome. How are you?
I'm fine, Mo and Pindi. Thank you so much for inviting me to your podcast. I'm so excited to actually share my journey.
Yeah. Yes. Awesome. Just tell us a bit about yourself. You've had one of very interesting journeys, Tell us a bit about yourself, maybe beginning where you're from quickly before we get to what you are currently involved in.
My name is Nomsa Masoka Zulu. I'm married to Dr. Zulu.
Yeah.
I've got 3 children. My elder son is autistic, Ubong Musa, Noslindile, Nolindo Kuhle.
Yeah.
And I'm actually from Soweto, Ikulele Mletsani.
Oh, yes.
And I then went and moved to Diepkloof, where I stayed with my parents. And then I pursued a career in speech and hearing therapy, only to discover that the very career would lead me to my calling.
Oh, wow. That's very interesting because, you've answered it so perfectly because my next question was, being a health activist, how did that come about?
Yeah.
So when did you discover, when was your first encounter that began you in that journey? The journey of being involved in the health profession?
The encounter is so funny. It happened when I was little.
Yeah.
I was one of those people who really wanted to take care of people who are going through struggles or, I remember when I was a little girl at school, one of the kids, she had a mistake where she had number 2 in the class and everybody laughed at her. And I didn't understand at that age. I was the one who was mopping the floor after she had the number 2. And it's because my dad raised me to say, Mtanam, ungahleki abanye abantu. If there's somebody in need, please do take care of that person. And then it was in that grade. And then I moved to the other grade, and then there was this little girl who had a condition called cerebral palsy. Now that I know about it, then I didn't understand.
Yeah.
And she would drool, and in Sesotho, everybody would be laughing at her. So that means there was a problem with her muscle coordination, and she had a little bit of low tone. Now that I know
what it was.
And every time I would be the one that goes with her, like during lunchtime, and I always spend time with her. She liked me so much that, she even gave me a chain that, that just as a thank you to say, I think she could feel it, that she was being bullied and laughed at, and I just embraced her. So I could say God actually prepared me for this journey. That's why I went to a profession that literally works with people with disabilities, because I had it in my heart.
Wow.
Yes. And you know that scripture that says he knows you even before you were born.
You were born,
Yes.
so God already prepared you
prepared
for
you,
this.
yes.
Because I'm now thinking, okay, your firstborn is autistic. It's also something that a lot of us don't realize as Black people. Now that I think about it, there are probably a lot of autistic people that I grew up with, but we didn't have a name for it. So what happened? Tell us about that beginning, when you realized that your son was autistic. What were the signs and how did you realize even what it was?
Okay, with autism, I'll briefly explain what autism is. Autism is a neurodevelopmental condition that affects the child's development with regards to communication, behavior, as well as social interaction.
Okay.
So if those three areas are mainly affected, where the child doesn't develop speech or where the child they're speaking but they're not able to put up a sentence and make sense of what they're saying when they've got strange behavior. So with my son, what happened is he was normal developing, and then when he was at the age of about 2 years, I think, 18 months going to 2 years, we started to see a very strange child that was doing things that were a little bit weird, because I knew him. He could sing, he could count, he could do a lot of other things.
Yeah.
But then when he got to 18 months, I would call him and he wouldn't respond to me calling him. And then at night, he would play with his fingers and make funny sounds, and stare at his fingers. And then I also noticed that when I hug him, he refused my hugs, and that was a little bit strange. But because the main concern was him not responding to what I was saying. So as an audiologist by profession, I literally just thought, maybe he's got a middle ear infection. Let me start there. So we tested his ears just to see, if there's middle ear problems or maybe hearing problems. And then we discovered that he does have middle ear infection.
Okay.
We sent him to an ENT. And then when he came back from the ENT, I thought maybe my son would recover. And that's when we noticed a lot of more deterioration with regards to his behavior. And he would go outside the house and take a twig and run around the house and do some flapping movement with his fingers, which is called stimming.
Okay.
And then he would do it rapidly, and he lost interest in me as his mom. Like in terms of us having that, social interaction.
Yeah.
If I wanted to hug him, he refused my kisses. And then the strange thing is he would eat yogurt only. He would refuse to eat other food of other textures. So he would strictly want to eat
a specific
diet.
Wow.
Which is like your mashed potatoes and your yogurts. Remember that, like I said, autism also affects your sensory processing thing. Like it's more like a sensory integration disorder, if I were to call it, that they may be hypersensitive to sound. So if I go with him to the mall, that sound of people, even your steps as you move, it can be too loud. So when you get to the mall, it's overwhelming. So they can be overwhelmed by visual stimuli, which is seeing a lot of people, or the actual sound of people that are in the mall. And so he would cover his ears. So I then knew these were like telltale signs of autism, because the sensory is affected, the social interaction, he doesn't want me to hug him, to interact with me, and the communication. The little speech that he had was gone. Now my son could no longer speak. He knew how to count at the age of 1.
Yeah.
So when all that happened, I was like, okay, let me take him to a neurodevelopmental pediatrician. And remember, this was our firstborn child.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think at that moment, it was scary to go through all this. So I took my husband to the neurodevelopmental pediatrician to have our son assessed to find out if he's got autism or not. I personally knew that he's autistic. But for his dad, even though he's a medical professional, but for him it was more like, okay, let's get confirmation from my colleagues,
Yeah.
And the colleague actually confirmed all the signs to say that he's autistic.
Sure.
Oh my goodness.
Because I can imagine you don't want to accept. I mean, you're getting me teary as I'm listening to you, because I'm just thinking about, as a mom, first-time mom, at that point, you want to make sure that there's absolutely nothing wrong with your child, and to have to discover these things. And I mean, honestly, I'm thinking of someone who will not even realize what it was. But for you, you were able to detect, Guti, this could be autism.
Yeah.
So how was that process now? I mean, from the time that he's confirmed, obviously they had a lot of things had to change in the home, to accommodate his condition.
A lot changed. It was like, I felt when I heard about the diagnosis, I literally felt like I lost a bit of myself, because now here we are told the son is autistic. One, financially, it's quite expensive to take care of a child with special needs. And at that moment, how doctors give you news, go and do this test and that. And it was just too much, because we also had to go and do some EEGs, and we found out that he's got absent seizures, which means it's more like, epilepsy, but he doesn't have convulsions. He won't fall. He will be looking at you, stare at you, but he's blanked out.
Oh, wow.
And then you'll see tears coming out. So that means there were electrical impulses that were happening in the brain that is disturbing him in terms of how he needs to function mentally. And as you try to fix that problem by getting him medication, we put him on medication called Epilim. Obviously through the doctor's prescription and advice. When we put him on Epilim, I would get home. When he was on that medication, he would bite me. He would bite me. And so we started to see another behavior emerging. Imagine you're trying to fix a problem, and then another problem.
Other things are coming.
Oof. And then I thought to myself, no, let us stop this medication and not give it to him. And now it's the diet as well that we have to now think about, this diet that he is refusing certain things, So whatever that you do, you have to also accommodate the diet. Going to church. My God. I mean, we know church is overstimulation with regards to the sound that is coming from the mics when they are singing.
Yes.
So I would go to church and my son wouldn't sit still. And I remember there was a time where he would go up to the pulpit and walk around there. And the people at church, once your child is like that, everybody will be shouting at you as a mom to say, please remove your child, reprimand your child without understanding. So it really affected our ability to go and worship in church. So my husband would stay behind for the longest time. And I would be the only one going to church.
Sure.
And friends. Now you have to go visit your friends. And the reason I'm explaining all that I'm going through, my son is 21. So everything that's happening, it's back then when there was not a lot of education and understanding of autism. But we're not expecting so much of this now because, times have moved. But during that time, a lot of people didn't know much about it. And hence I went through all the struggle at that time. And it would be things like our friends. You'd be with your friends, you're going to a party, and your son will do the strangest and weirdest things, like taking off his clothes in front of everyone.
Sure. What age is this now?
It's about the age of 3 to 4 years.
If this platform means anything to you at all, if this platform blesses you in some other way, there's a lot of costs to actually run this project, and would really, really appreciate it if you could, give whatever, you feel led to give towards this platform. And the banking details are at the bottom of the screen. Whatever, it doesn't matter what it is, 10 Rand, 10,000 Rand, doesn't matter. We're open to everything because we really not only are enjoying this, but we really feel the importance of this platform and the role that it plays, to various families and people who give us feedback about the importance of this platform. Yeah.
That
At that time,
early.
had you diagnosed?
Yes.
Had the
Yeah,
child
yeah,
been
he had one
diagnosed?
diagnosed.
Okay.
And then there was an incident where a friend of mine said, let's take him, let's meet somewhere. And, we met somewhere. And he said, bring your child with. And I brought him with. And guess what? He had number 2.
Right there.
Right there.
Yo.
But where the kids play, obviously.
Yes.
And guess what? I had to go and pick up the whole thing.
Yeah. I
And
mean, I can imagine, Sis Nomsa, you are such a, you are so amazing, because I can just picture how difficult that becomes for you as a parent.
Yeah.
Because now it means, you parent differently. You always need to be obviously looking over his shoulder, what he's up to, and all of that. How has that changed you as a person?
You know what, to be honest with you, you're living on autopilot mode. You're living on a lot of anxiety. I wasn't actually even aware that I'm actually an anxious person. And I think over the years, I personally thought it was just my coping mechanism, and that, I had, but I just discovered that I'm actually suffering from anxiety.
Yeah.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Sure.
And it's all the stresses you've had throughout him developing, because when you say you're sitting with a child like that, you see that pot plant that you have over there. Anything can happen to it. He can decide he will break it without him knowing. And obviously with training and over time, you need to discipline still regardless.
Okay.
And then he goes and visits your parents. There was a day, I remember we used to go and visit my mom. And when I went to my mom's home, when we got there, my mom has got beautiful vases everywhere.
Yeah.
Like she's got the cleanest house ever. And she's one of those.
Yes.
I can already.
That's how our parents are.
Yeah,
We used to
during
be.
those times, and those beautiful, nice tea sets that they like to decorate with. And then my son would go over her bedroom and on top of the bed and jump onto this bed. When we try to reprimand, he goes to another bedroom, jumps on that one and goes onto the... And my mom would say, your child is so wild. And that name calling at that moment is because even my mom then, she didn't understand. And then it's like, okay, if my mom doesn't understand, that means I'm going to become a prisoner in my home.
Yeah.
Because even her, it's difficult to have my son as a visitor. So that somehow affected my relationship with my mother. That led me to depression.
I can imagine, sis. I can imagine.
So it's more like you living in isolation with your husband. It's in the four corners of your house that you don't want to go out to be with other people. If you go to restaurants, there was a beautiful restaurant that we used to go to somewhere in Bedford. And that white man, he was so loving. Like we actually explained to him. And we liked, that sitting where it's more like your couches.
Yes, like
and
a
the bench.
Yes.
And so we knew that if we sat there, not like with your tables and
with
around.
the 4 chairs,
With the 4 chairs, right next to the wall.
Yeah,
so
I
we
see
know
it.
that, okay, my husband would be the one who sits next to him so that he doesn't move. And
Also,
then
you'll put him right
right
in the
corner,
corner.
so that he doesn't move.
Yeah.
And then sometimes he'll be taking people's drinks at the restaurant. As we go in,
Sure.
he will just pick
grab.
grab whatever, cold
Yeah.
drinks, that whatever he finds, he would grab it and drink.
But
My goodness.
But do you understand, Guti? I'm just thinking of people who have not gotten to a point where they understand what is happening. You'll actually think that you have a naughty child.
Yes.
And you'll probably end up reprimanding your child without knowing what the condition is. I mean, we used to grow up with kids who will do that.
And I can tell you a lot of parents are still going through that at this point as I'm talking to you, where it's like, he's like that.
And you just keep punishing
and even when they don't speak, umalume was like that, ufuza umalume wakhe, that's why engakwazi ukukhuluma, you know. And now we should be more alert and educated about the condition, and, you know, us sharing my experience, you know, somehow someone will understand what I'm talking about.
No, I definitely.
But a lot of people are still going through this because they don't know what it is, especially in the rural areas where there's not a lot of education with regards to autism.
You know, one of my favorite shows on Netflix
Yes.
is Love and the Spectrum.
Yes.
Right? And I've fallen in love with that show. I always, you know, I enjoy it. And one of the most intriguing things, you know, when I watch the show, first of all, the ignorant me would lump everybody in one box, you know, to think that they're all the same. But it's amazing, first of all, how intelligent they are.
Super. That was my deduction.
You know, how intelligent they are, and how the minutest of details that you would overlook for them, you know, it becomes, as you were saying, you know, earlier, that, you know, the steps when people walk in a mall, you know, how that, you know, their sensory, you know, thing they would be so alert, you know, to those. What are some of those things for you, you know, for your child in terms of what is it that is different, you know, about your child, even when it comes to interacting with siblings? You know, what are some of the things that make your son unique to them?
Musa, he's the most loving soul ever. You know, such that everyone who worked with my son, every caregiver will tell you, if anything, you've got the most loving, sweetest soul. And it took me years and time to actually see it. And now that I'm seeing it, it's like I see God's love through this child.
Yeah.
You know, Bomusa will give you such an embrace. And even if he cannot speak, let me tell you, there was a day I was sick. And I don't know, like, you know, even though he cannot speak because he's nonverbal.
Oh, still?
He's still nonverbal.
Okay.
Bomusa would come to your bed on the day that you are sick and look at you right straight into your eyes and give you this kiss that will be so different from the other days, as if there's a, you know, there's a special connection, spiritual connection that they have, that he will give you that embrace and he will kiss you and you'll be like, Lord, of all my kids, I mean, I'm sick and none of them are actually coming to check on me. And there was a day I was like having diarrhea and vomiting. But Ubo Musa was the only child that came and gave me that. And God showed up through him.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that Ubo Musa would do is that he loves his iPad.
Yeah.
You know, you would put on a coat and think, Ubo Musa, because he can't speak, he will not remember the code. Ubo Musa will figure out the code.
Yeah.
And then musically, this child, we've seen a huge development with regards to his genre of music. Haibo, lately he's 21. Guess what he's playing?
Don't tell me.
Abo Whitney Houston. Hey.
He's grown.
And now he's playing, who's this, Luther Vandross songs.
Yeah.
And I was amazed as to, we've seen him play songs that are almost age appropriate at a certain point. And then now he's 10-21. I'm like, Lord, YouTube. He will be listening to those songs and then he's got a hoverboard. Guess what? He will be holding his iPad like this and still going on his hoverboard, but still looking at his iPad.
Yeah.
Sometimes he will play a game, but he's not looking and he's still jumping. I'm like, Lord, how does this child do this? I mean, it's as though he knows that, and he scores the highest score in comparison to the other siblings on his iPad when he plays some of the games. So those are the things that I've discovered about him, that he's quite exceptional, I must say.
So in a way, God sharpens other senses. It's not a complete thing that, okay, he can't speak and therefore all the other senses are not,
responding.
responding. But
Yes.
I'm just, because I can imagine when you have a firstborn and he has autism, falling pregnant again was probably a very difficult time for you, because now you're thinking, "Ish,
You know what?
what if?"
Yeah, I think being a woman who believes so much in God and being prayerful, I said, you know, God, you'll never give me something that I will not be able to cope with. And when I had my second baby, I prayed for him. Throughout the pregnancy, I always prayed for my kids when they were in the womb. And we named our second son Lindo Gutle,
Okay.
waiting for,
Appropriate name.
yes,
Yeah.
anything that is beautiful. And I must say, I'm seeing that.
Yeah.
I'm seeing where Bongmosa had deficiencies, Ulindo Gutle came in.
To cover that.
To cover that.
Oof, that's amazing.
And then when I had my third child, my daughter, sadly, I had about 3 miscarriages.
Between your second and your third?
Yes.
Or
and my last born.
throughout?
Yes. No, between my second and my third born. When I had Slindile, I was like, I had 3 miscarriages, and I said to the Lord that I'm okay now. I don't want kids, only to discover I fell pregnant just as I was about to be on contraceptives.
Wow.
And when Uslindile came, sure, didn't she change my life? I see God through my kids. Uslindile is one of those kids when you're feeling down. She'll also tell you, she's got words of affirmation. That's her love language.
Yeah.
And will tell you, you're such a wonderful mom. You're such a good mom. And I'm like, Lord, with regards to giving me these kids, that there's a certain role they're playing in my life. And they completing us as a family.
Yeah.
So, I would say to parents, just give it up unto the Lord.
So, we're talking about Slindile and how she was this light, that you were waiting for. How did they relate to your firstborn?
It was hard, I must tell you, especially for Slindile, suffered from getting scratches and fighting with my eldest son, Bongmusa, because remember, Slindile is last born child, and she still needs the love and the
she's
attention.
A girl.
And she's a girl. But Bongmusa is still at the level that was almost closer to that of Slindile, or even below that in terms of functioning. So that meant we forced Slindile to grow up before her time.
Oh, yes.
In the sense that when Bongmusa would take an iPad, because they both used to have iPads, but Bongmusa would break when he's angry, he would break his iPad. And at some point, there was just one iPad that belonged to Slindile, and he would want to take it. And we would want to make Sli to understand, ukuthi, uyayifuna.
And yet to put him dala.
And shame, poor girl would cry. And, sometimes she would get those scratches from Bongmusa. So we then had to take Sli for play therapy. We had to make sure that she gets counseling. And guess what? She also had her own share of, some psychological problems.
Okay.
Definitely.
Because of that. And there were some bit of side effects that we could see, but then we took her to a play therapist, a psychologist, clinical psychologist. And same with Lindo as well. We took both of the kids, and we used to take them for horse riding every Saturday, so that at least when they do horse riding, that the benefits of, they call it equine therapy.
Yes, I've heard that.
Yeah,
Horses are the best.
They are the best.
Yeah.
Apparently, they hold space for you emotionally. If you're feeling depressed, then you get onto a horse, you feel, and they connect nicely with humans. And they can. Yes. So that's why it's recommended if you've got an autistic child. Now, Bongmusa is the one who's also going. Every Saturday, we take Bongmusa. Now, my daughter and my son are fine now.
Yeah.
They've grown up. They somehow understand the brother much better, and they're the ones now that are giving him things, that are taking care of him.
I'm sure
at
they
times. So
are-
it's no longer, because Slee has grown up now.
Yeah.
She's 12, but she's become like a big
Yeah.
sister now.
And I can also imagine she, obviously now that she understands, she kind of feels she needs to protect him now.
Yes.
Even though she's much younger,
Yeah.
than him.
And then obviously this led, all this experience, I mean, it's the world of it. This has led you to write this wonderful book, as well. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yes, I wrote a book called Unbreakable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In my book, basically, I'm sharing my journey
Yeah.
with regards to, the discovery of our son, that he's autistic and all that you go through.
Yeah.
Remember when we started, we talked about denial.
Yes.
My denial was denying that God will heal my child. Like I was denying that there's no cure. Okay, I denied that there's no cure. And I know I denied that there's no cure. I thought there'll be a cure.
Okay.
So I went through, when you deny and then you get to a stage of bargaining. When you're bargaining with God is when you're sending your child to different healers just to find something different. They will say
form of
for
solution. Yeah.
And then I went through anger and depression. And then the beauty is when I got to a place of acceptance.
Yeah.
And when I got to a place of acceptance, that's when I established my organization called Mothers of Children with Autism. So my organization is a support group that supports moms of autistic children, because I didn't want them to go through the same experience that I went through when I was denying, when I didn't find the support. There was no support at that moment. You get diagnosed and all we are told is that there's a speech therapist who also personally doesn't even understand autism. I thought I understood autism as a speech therapist. I didn't until I encountered it personally with my son.
Yeah.
And you as a mom, you know your child much better than any other person.
Yeah.
So it was hard in terms of, going to occupational therapists and all that. So that's why I had to have this support group. And then God also led me to having visions of why my son had to have this condition. It's because I now find that it's actually my calling.
Yeah.
Next week, I'm actually launching. It's more like an open day for our son. We're having an adult facility for autistics. It's a residential and respite center, because when he turns 21, there's not many places that caters for adult autistics. So it's named after my late mom, Daisy Autism Village. And you'll see if you read in the book why I had to say it's Daisy Autism Village. All in all.
I love the fact that you named it after your mom.
Yes.
After your experience, with your mom, obviously, when your son was young.
Yes.
I'm keen on, because I think this is where, as we're just about to wrap, I'm keen on the impact of this on marriage or a relationship. Because I can imagine the pressure that it comes with raising a child with special needs. How was that for you, quickly?
Yeah, that affected my marriage a lot, I must say, because we were still young couples, still trying to figure ourselves. We had just gotten married. We were not staying together. Now we suddenly have a son who is autistic, and we're having to deal with his condition. So it really affected my marriage. We were not emotionally available for each other as a couple. All the attention went into our son. All the love went into Mosa. We missed out a lot of opportunities for us to enjoy ourselves. It's only now that we are hitting our 50s, Though I don't look like I'm 48.
I know you don't.
I don't. We're getting that stage where it's like now we've got time.
Afresh.
It's like, ngathi khane sijola, me and my husband, and we're starting to enjoy each other because we've come to a place of acceptance. But that almost cost our marriage. There was a point where we almost went are separate ways.
Yeah.
But God said, you need each other. And I've seen how God has actually put the two of us together. It's like my husband and I complement each other so much. In all that I do, I couldn't have asked for a better person. But at the time, I didn't even see it. But he's just this partner that supports the vision and all that God has given called me to do. So, yeah.
No, that is amazing. I've seen how he's always by your side, with everything that you do. I mean, this is, I'm so excited, about what you are launching, because I think this is where we lack. Where do you keep people with autism? And tell us more about this center. Where are you launching it? How many people can you accommodate? Do people stay there, or is it a day center? Or, what's the setup like?
Okay, so it's going to be more of an open day so that people can come and get more information about it.
Okay.
It's going to be something called a Respite center as well as residential. Respite is, a mom wants to go take a holiday and just want to rest maybe on a weekend and doesn't have someone to take care of the child and doesn't probably have a caregiver, or the caregiver is unavailable, you can talk to us and you can bring your child over for a weekend and we'll be able to take care of your child for that period if there's availability too. We have residential. That means it's a boarding facility for all those that are 18. From the age of 18 and above, they can come and stay at the facility. I've also started chicken farming. It's an agricultural holding. I've started poultry farming. They'll also be doing things like collecting eggs, weighing eggs, and packaging eggs as well. And there's gardening as well.
Getting them active, really.
Getting them active. We're also going to be looking at things like skills that they can do, be it beading, be it craft and arts that they can do at the facility, and engage them in social activities. But my concept, to be honest with you, we've seen institutions. It's more, they institutionalize these children. Mine is more of a social integration. We want families of these children to come, like maybe on a weekend, and we have lunch with our kids, and you can come, and we all still have to interact with each other and form a bit of a community. And we can do hikings together as families. So we'll bring in much of social activities for these children, because we still want them to have good quality of life, not this thing of just bombarding them with medication and numbing them. We must understand that autism is not, most people treat it like your psychiatric condition, as if ungathi umuntu uyahlanya. But no, with our kids, it's that they see and process the world differently from the way we see
process
it. And so we need to work with what they've got. If we see Musa is more in tune to music, why not get him to do DJ? Why not get him to DJ? So we will be looking specifically to each child's individual strength and actually try to to empower them so that they can live as well independently as well, and to be able to discover their gifts as well. Yes.
You said something about medication. I think as we are closing, let's close on how does one control? There's no cure, right?
Yes, there's no cure.
There's no cure for it. But then how do you, keep your child? Is there something that the kind of medication that people can recommend for them to take?
Yes.
Because I think we find ourselves abanye bazi bathi umntwana uyahlanya because akuzoba na medication. Hayi uyagula lo. This is how they are. What kind of medication is recommended for such?
Okay, each child will behave differently, and each medication is according to whatever signs or symptoms they've got. With my son, he's on Respite that is calming him, and he's also on lamictal, so that also helps with absent seizures that I talked about, and it also helps to regulate his his moods as well, because they can be a
Can
bit
be
of
moody.
bipolar. So yes, medication is needed, but sometimes we found that some institution is about dragging them, like giving even overdose, so
overdosing.
that they are sleeping and doing nothing. We're still gonna recommend that you take medication, but at the same time, do a bit of stimulation, not just medicate, and stimulate and still say they've got an ability to do something. So yeah, we'll still work with them on medication and also diet. The one thing I'm going to stress at my facility is giving them healthy diet, taking away the sugar, putting them on very natural food, like oating, fermented,
Yes,
mabele, and also those, they have got good nutrients, because we also observe that our kids suffer from gut problems where they're not able to absorb certain nutrients in their bodies. So it's also good to put them on multivitamins so that we strengthen their immune system and also help with the brain development.
Is that the reason he will choose certain foods? I'm so curious about why he was only interested in dairy food, your yogurt and your mash.
It was more the sensory, but that doesn't stop you from introducing certain textures.
Okay.
Bongosa now eats everything. Awuthandi nyama. He eats like even spicy food. They may start off like that, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't introduce certain food. I did that. I introduced slowly. And and now he's fine.
And
he eats all the vegetables, everything, meat. He's not even. He's no longer a fussy eater. So you do overcome in some other way as they grow. They outgrow certain things.
Yes.
Guess what? Yes, bengidla. Papa nobisi. Growing up, I thought to myself, God, maybe Nami, I'm a bit autistic. I'm telling you, Papa nobisi. Until the age of 13. Until the age of 13.
Wow.
I'm telling you, and I'm like, Lord, but Nomsa, look at yourself. Even when you dress up, you always want to coordinate the colors. Like, I'm a bit of an OCD. So having said that, you were talking about how some of them are, they've got special skills. And let me tell you, a lot of people are actually on the spectrum.
Actually, if this platform means anything to you at all, if this platform blesses you in some other way, there's a lot of costs to actually run this project. And would really, really appreciate it if you could, give whatever, you feel led to give towards this platform. And the banking details are at the bottom of the screen. Whatever, it doesn't matter what it is, 10 Rand, 10,000 Rand, doesn't matter. We're open to everything, because we really not only are enjoying this, but we really feel the importance of this platform and the role that it plays, to various families and people who give us feedback about the importance of this platform.
We get to think about
that before.
These can be your doctors. These can be your highly educated individual. And you could see that this person lacks social skills in terms of they don't want to interact with people and all that. And sadly, because they're high functioning. But umuntu umuzwe athi yo, yazi lo muntu agana tech, like blunt, they don't know how they socially inappropriate. And when you learn more about autism, you start to see there are people who are actually autistic, who are in corporate, who are doing very well in certain areas in their careers. But socially, aibo.
Yes.
Yes, and that's so true.
Believe that.
Anyways, let's not get to that, because I think you're going to unveil a lot of things.
Yeah.
We're going to be sitting and thinking,
it is.
Do I have autism? But Sis Nomsa, thank you so much, man.
Oh, man. This was such a powerful
so informative
parenting, episode. And it was deliberately meant as such.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for the work that you are doing. You are doing amazing work. And for the dedication, I think you are so dedicated in what God has called you to do, and we really wish you well. Thank you for doing the best that you could do for your son, because I think where things go wrong for most of us as parents is when we fail, to show up for our kids, and I think you have showed up for your son.
Yeah.
And that's why he demonstrate love the way that he does, you know,
Yeah.
because he can tell that you've been there for him, you know. And we can't wait to meet him, by the way, one day.
Yeah.
He'll
He
give you
sounds
so
like an
much
amazing,
kisses. No, and hugs.
he sounds like an amazing, boy.
Yeah.
He is.
Thank you
All
so
right.
much.
No, thank you so much. Well, thank you so much for joining us for this wonderful episode. We hope that it meant something to you, even if you don't have a child that is in the spectrum. But certainly there are certain areas that this episode has been meaningful to you. And we will include the details, Zikasis Nomsa, for some of the, because I can tell you now, we will have quite a number of people who will say, you know, can we be in touch? Are you open to that?
Yes,
for
yes,
people?
yes,
Okay.
yes.
So we'll put some of the details at the bottom of your screen. Thank you so much for your subscribes. Thank you for your comments. And till we meet again next time, thank you so much for joining us.
Much love.